Dear students, let us see the introduction to asynchronous sequential circuit. Asynchronous sequential circuit. So we have already seen in the previous. So let us see, as we have discussed the synchronous sequential circuit in detail. So now we are going to see what exactly is the asynchronous. To understand what exactly is the asynchronous sequential circuit, let us understand the difference between the synchronous sequential circuit, okay, synchronous sequential circuit and asynchronous sequential circuit. So the first difference, if I have to tell, is in case of synchronous circuit, memory elements are clocked flip-flops. Okay, the memory elements are clocked flip-flops. Okay, so in case of asynchronous, is memory elements are either unclocked flip-flops or time delay elements. It's very important over here. The memory elements are either unclocked flip-flops or time delay elements, and this is what will differentiate the types of asynchronous sequential circuit. We'll see that after knowing what exactly is the difference between the two. So here the memory elements are clocked flip-flops. Here the memory elements are either the unclocked flip-flops or time delay elements. So the second difference between the synchronous and asynchronous is, in synchronous circuits, the change in the input signals can affect memory element upon activation of the clock signal. Okay, so here the change in the input signals can affect the memory element upon activation of the clock signal. Here what happens is, the change in the input signals can affect memory element at any instant of time. This is very important. Here it is upon the activation of the clock signal. Here it is at any instant of time. That is why it is the asynchronous sequential circuit. Then the third major difference is the maximum operating speed of the clock depends on the time delays involved. Here we know that because of the absence of clock, here we know that there is no clock. So because of the absence of clock, asynchronous sequential circuit, I'll write a short form as ACS, can operate faster than the synchronous circuit, right? So the maximum operating speed of the clock here depends upon the time delays, but here, since there is no clock, you know that ACS, that is your asynchronous sequential circuit can operate faster than the synchronous sequential circuit, right? So the last difference is, it is easier to design. Here it is little more difficult to design. It's more difficult to design. So these are the major difference between the synchronous and the asynchronous, right? So I guess now these four major difference will help you all to understand what is the major difference between the two, right? So synchronous, always the memory elements are clocked, whereas in case of the asynchronous, it's either unclocked flip-flops or time delay elements. And the other major difference is here the operating speed depends upon the time delay. Here, because of the absence of clock, it is more faster when compared to the sequential circuit, right? And here it is very easy to design and it's more difficult to design. And the last difference is the change in the input signals can affect the memory element over a synchronous sequential circuit. Here, the change in the input signals can affect the memory element at any instant of time. Right? So knowing the difference between the two, let's see the two types of circuits of your asynchronous sequential circuit. Okay? So let me discuss about the types of asynchronous sequential circuit. So the types of asynchronous sequential circuits are, there are two types. Okay? So, the two types of asynchronous sequential circuit are fundamental mode circuit, and the next is the pulse mode circuit. Dear students, how exactly it has been differentiated is according to how the input variables are considered. How the input variables are considered. So this is the key point of separating or bifurcating the types in case of asynchronous sequential circuits. Okay. So here it is sequential S and here it is C. Okay. So let me draw first the pulse mode circuit for y'all. The pulse mode circuit, it's very easy. So here you have a combinational circuit. Okay. So combinational circuit, you know, it's fully made up of gates. So here it's the combinational circuits. And I have the inputs. I shall name the inputs as X1 to Xn. Okay. So you have many inputs over here. And let me name the output as Z1 to Zm. Okay. So here, as we know, in case of asynchronous, memory elements plays the role. So here the flip-flop acts as the memory elements. Okay, you can note down the difference. Okay, and here you have the excitation variables. Okay, you have several excitation variables. So let me name those excitation variables. Okay, so KR, JR, because as I told, your flip-flop memory elements. So JR, KR, okay, and you have that rising from J1 to K1. Okay, so this again I'll just connect it over here so you can see the continuity. Okay, so if it is K1, then this is your J1. Okay, so you have n number of terms over here. So similarly, these are my excitation variables YR. Okay, and the same thing I'll connect over here. So this is my YN. Okay, so if I have to say, you can see over here you have a combinational circuit. You have X1 to Xn to be your n input variables, and you have Z1 to Zm as your output variables. Okay, you have your output variables over here, and you can see that J1, let me write this for you all here, J1 to JR as I've indicated, K1 to KR as indicated, Y1 to YR. Okay, so all these specifies nothing but your excitation variables. Okay, so The main parts actually in case of your pulse mode circuit is you have a combination circuit and your memory element being the flip-flops, and you have the excitation variables which has the feedback, right? So you can see the inputs over here and the outputs over here. So this is your pulse mode circuit. Okay, so let us discuss about what is fundamental mode circuit. So you can see the difference when I draw the diagram. So fundamental mode circuit. So in case of fundamental mode circuit, so again you have a combinational circuit over here. So combinational circuit, the inputs let me name as xn, sorry, x1 to xn, and my outputs are z1 to zm. Okay, so here I have the feedback given through a delay element. Say it is delta t. There we saw it was the flip-flop memory element. Here it is the delta t, that is the delay, and that is being given as yr. Okay, so this is capital yr. Okay, and similarly I have starting from y1, right? You have y1 to yr. So you have a delay element over here, and this will give my y1. Okay, so here if I have to specify, let me write this for you. Z1 to Zm is nothing but, say it is m output variables. Okay, and y1 to yr is my secondary variables. Okay, so this is your fundamental mode circuit. Okay, you can see the difference over here. So you here again you have a combinational circuit and you have inputs x1 to xn, and you have m output z1 to zm, and you have the feedback, okay, which is given via your delay element from y1 to yr, right? So you can see that I have mentioned it here. Okay, so again you can compare this with your pulse mode circuit and you can know the difference between the two. Okay, so this is actually your y1 and this is your yr. This is your yr. Okay, this is your y1. So dear students, so in case of asynchronous sequential circuits, we had two types, the fundamental mode circuit and the pulse mode circuit. Hope you understood the difference by the diagram, that is the block diagram. Thank you.